Hi, I'm Dee.
I'm Jose.
And we're your token theater friends, people who see too much theater and are usually the only people of color in the room. How does that make you feel, Jose?
Let's move on. We are the Amazing Playwrights Horizons because we are talking to playwright Larissa Fasthorse and actress Margo Seibert, who are in the Thanksgiving play.
Yeah, and Margo also has an album coming out right now.
It's
right?
so beautiful. It's called 77th Street.
Well, let's go to the interview.
I suggest that we begin 4,000 years ago, when ancient northern Europeans joined the agricultural revolution and reaped their first organized harvest as farmers. In order to give thanks to the gods for this new way of life, they feasted with ceremonies. Thousands of years later, these ceremonies become known as the modern Harvest Home Festival.
I thought we were doing a Thanksgiving play.
For those who have not seen the Thanksgiving play, can I have a short synopsis of what people can expect from the Thanksgiving play?
Do you want the official synopsis or my synopsis?
Yours.
Oh, good. Awesome.
Oh, me too.
Okay, so officially, my synopsis is I make fun of white people for 82 minutes. Done. Does that sound right?
Yes, 100%.
To me, it's about performative wokeness. Like people who are performing this act of being woke without necessarily wanting to do the work or the understanding of what that means and how they can actually be of service to the world. And the whatever written, what is that synopsis would be that it's about four white presenting people who are trying to make a culturally sensitive Thanksgiving play for Native American Heritage Month. Native American Heritage Month.
How does that make you feel, Margo, to be making fun of your people
so
for 90
good.
minutes?
No, I loved in one of the talkbacks earlier in the process where someone said it's like these people are trying to be so sensitive that they're incredibly insensitive. And I think the tricky thing is whenever we feel as actors and white people like when we start on stage to feel badly for doing that. It's like we have to go so far to be as offensive as possible and execute what is written without any apologies for it to like land with the audience. And so it's super fun for me. I mean, obviously I've never seen anything like it or been a part of anything like it. So so it makes me feel good. I feel like I'm doing my part.
So many people, Margo, know you from musicals. And I've gotten to see you in straight plays and musicals. And I wonder, is there any difference in how you approach the characters as a performer, whether it's a musical or a play?
Well, I mean, I absolutely love to sing. I love to tell a story through song. And that's an added bonus in a way when you get to do a musical and you get to then, like, the music takes you on an emotional journey as well. But it's a super fun to not have the music to rely on, and to have the text, and to find that same kind of musicality and like almost like the volleyball game of keeping the ball aloft, with the text. So that's really, really fun for me in plays, and also in brand new plays, getting the chance to talk to Larissa, to have her in the room, which is such a cool thing about playwrights, and work and develop the show together and hone it to the four members of this cast and this particular production. And so that's something really special, which often I feel like in musicals you don't necessarily have time to do.
As our Native American compass, Alicia is allowed to say what she wants about it.
Native American?
I told you we got the Heritage Month grant to hire the professional actor.
You didn't say it was for a Native American actor?
I thought it was implied.
I am so sorry. It is truly an honor to work with you.
This play is a lot about myth busting, about like the things we were taught as non-native people about Thanksgiving and how it's all kind of BS.
Yes.
And so, Larissa, what did you learn about Thanksgiving growing up, and when did you learn about like what the rest of us were taught? And what was that like?
Yeah, interestingly, I was really fortunate because growing up in South Dakota as a Lakota person, I've told these guys a lot of times, grew up in this time called, the era of reconciliation, where the state was officially trying to reconcile with their history with the Native people and how that had all not gone down well. And so we didn't have Columbus Day. We didn't have Pilgrims and Indians at school. Like, we never did that for Thanksgiving. It was always, it's South Dakota, so it's about harvest and fall and bounty, and that's something, everyone's celebrating anyway. And so it was about that and about food and hanging with your family. And so that's what I did growing up. It was honestly, I didn't realize until I started writing this play the crazy stuff people are still doing in schools with children. You all have to do it. There's some crazy things.
Oh, it's so uncomfortable to watch.
Oh, it's horrifying. The stuff that like today on the internet, people are putting new videos of stuff they have children do with Pilgrims and Indians and all those things, and that are not, problematic isn't even close to, like, it's just downright racist. And I had no idea, because I'd never done those things, of how intense it was, and it's still going on. And so I really didn't learn about a lot of that stuff until I started writing this play.
And I think over the years, you go, like, throughout history class, you kind of go, okay, I feel like this couldn't possibly be the full story, because we're leaving, like, complete peoples out of it.
Right.
Like, so that doesn't quite add up. But I would say, in terms of being really specific, it's part of this play. I mean, just speaking about the different, I know that people do really weird stuff for Thanksgiving. That I knew, because that I was very likely a part of in kindergarten. But in terms of various dates and when was there now we need to all celebrate Thanksgiving in this way and bring families together and cover up this part of history, that I feel like got way more specific for me with this play and this experience.
Yeah, me too.
Were you ever like this close to like pulling a Wednesday Addams and Addams Family Values and just like burning the entire like act to the ground?
I feel like that's what we're gonna do.
What's the best way, in your opinion, to teach Thanksgiving? Now that you've done this.
Boy. Well, I'm not going home for Thanksgiving this year, which is probably a good thing politically. I think in a very simple form, it's like, what are you celebrating and why are you celebrating it? I think often I've thought of, like, what are you grateful for? What are you thankful for? This bounty, it's fall, it's a time of plenty, it's before we're heading into winter and kind of turning in and turning off and hibernating in a sense. And so that all makes sense to me, but historically what it has stood for, I think, is something that we should be talking about, especially if we're going to continue in any way, shape, or form to teach our children this kind of these ridiculous stories and Thanksgiving plays and portraying other people or other races.
He came from somewhere back in the long ago. Sentimental fool, don't see, trying hard to recreate what had yet to be created. Once in her life, she musters a smile for his nostalgic tale.
Margo, your album 77th Street is so beautiful.
Thank you.
Like, you got me to like a Nirvana song.
I'm so happy about that.
I was so surprised. But I was like, what? It's like a really lovely mix of songs that you love and you grew up listening to and loving. Because you have Joni Mitchell, you have Michael McDonald and Nirvana. And then you also include your very personal songwriting. And I wonder, can you talk a little bit about what I'm assuming was, like coming from a very vulnerable place to include Margo's songs next to like Kurt Cobain and Joni and Michael.
Oh,
what was that like for you?
That's such a great question. Thank you. Well, part of it was I've only been writing music for the last couple of years, and I had basically been keeping it to myself because I didn't label myself as a songwriter. I thought I'm just an actress, and that's what I do. I don't know how to write. And then it really was my record producer, Michael Kreuter, who said, like, I think that this album needs to be your songs. At least half of it needs to be your own music. If that's what you have, like, we want it. We need to hear what you have to say. And the idea of the album came in a thematic kind of way because I was thinking about the in-betweens of life and how many we have and how uncomfortable they are, whether you're like you haven't quite finished that project or you're in between jobs or you're grieving and you don't quite know how to let go or you need to make a tremendous decision in your life. And that's kind of where I wanted to pay respect to a time that, especially in New York City, but often as humans, we have great difficulty being okay with not knowing. And so that Whitman on the album is like about my sister's death and like just dealing with grief and thinking that maybe we're thinking about death like in the wrong way. We don't know. So how can we say we know when we don't? You know, it was inspired by a Whitman poem. But yeah, I really felt good combining my personal experience in with these cover songs because it felt like it all kind of was honoring this uncomfortable time. And I really think that we're also kind of collectively in an uncomfortable time.
Are you planning on taking the show on tour?
That takes money. And
So much of it in the theater.
So right. Yeah. So I'm hoping that to take it to my hometown, like Washington D.C., Baltimore area, and hopefully do this concert at theaters that I've worked at, or go to the hometown folks, and then I'm sure we'll be playing in the East Village probably in the new year.
I breathe you in, it's impossible to speak. Cause baby, I'm a fool, maybe so are you. Holding on so tightly, holding on so tightly. Baby, I'm a fool, maybe so are you. Holding on so tightly, holding on so tightly.
There's been so much talk about how like you're the first of this and now you have to represent your community, and I know you didn't train to be a playwright and you were a ballerina until you were 30 years old, and so being the only person of Native heritage in the room, like what has been your coping strategies for continuing to pursue this career?
Ooh, wow. That's a good question. It's a lot of things. I think honestly part of those two challenges I just talked about are also self-serving, right? Because then it guarantees I'm not the only Native person. I might be the only one in rehearsal, within the rehearsal room, but I know that there's other Indigenous people holding down staff trainings and competency trainings and different things with the staff that I'm not a part of, but I know that it's happening. So that's kind of my selfish way of bringing other artists in. I know that some of my favorite artists are right down the hall today. And it is hard when, except for once in my life, in my career, I've always been the first Native American in each theater I've worked in, always. Yeah. And it's hard. It's hard to, like, I would love it to just be easy once where I don't have to talk about, I don't have to learn everyone in front of house because I need to talk to them about engaging with my community. I don't have to learn, do all the staff training. I don't have to learn all the ticket people and make sure they don't say something offensive to my people and turn away an elder and do all these different things that are important in my culture. It'd be lovely to just like show up and work on the play. I can't imagine what that's like. I've never done that.
God, yeah.
I can't imagine like what that would be. Because I have to be responsible for like a whole institution and then those 7 generations behind me that are coming and that need to be able to walk through these doors. And I'm responsible to all those people. And
I feel so grateful that you did do those like trainings here and demanded that other people be part of the season, because it's like it helps all of us. And I mean, that's a ton of work on your shoulders, but I so appreciate it because then we are like, oh, okay, this is the kind of experience for your people. How do we be accommodating so your family can come? Right. And that is really important to learn because we've had all of these discussions about like theater rules, white theater rules, and what we expect a proper audience to behave, and it's really nice to kind of stretch that definition and expand. So.
Yeah. What are you two grateful for this year?
I'm actually really grateful that I am spending my Thanksgiving here doing this play, because often I also play very sad people, which is also good in its own time and place, and people need to feel things, and they are feeling things here, but it's such a joy to bring people this kind of laughter and to hear. I've heard Larissa say multiple times, like, that laughter is adding time to people's lives, and I am so that if there's ever a moment where I'm within the play and I'm going, oh, I didn't deliver that well, or like, oh, that fell, or like, oh, I think whenever I'm judging myself, and I hear laughter, I remind myself, like, no, that's it. Like, they're with us, they hear that, we're adding time to their lives. It's what I can do right now. And I'm grateful for my husband. I think he's really cool.
Yay.
Yeah.
Well, I'm grateful for my husband
Also,
too.
I'm also, yes.
I don't need to talk about them. They're not
Say
here.
that. Now she shamed me. And she even just said his name, and I didn't. I'm grateful for Ed. No, I'm honestly, since we're sitting here, I'm going to do the cheesy thing, but true thing, and say I'm grateful to Playwrights Horizons, because not only will they be producing this play through Thanksgiving, but also just down the hallway here are the first rehearsals for the readings of 2 other Indigenous plays, and then there'll be 2 more tomorrow. And I'm just really excited. I throw down the challenge to every theater that I work with, 2 challenges. One, that I can't be the only Native art in the season. I can't be the only Native person paid in the season. And Playwrights Horizons really took those challenges to heart, and they've worked really hard at it. All the theaters I have worked with have, and they have done no less. They've involved Indigenous visual artists and performing artists and actors and dancers. They're going to have a permanent land acknowledgement plaque in the lobby. All these wonderful things are happening. There are going to be continuous changes here, and I'm really, really grateful for that. And I realize it sounds cheesy because we're sitting here, but I actually do appreciate it. Yeah, it matters. And it means that I'm the first Native American ever to come through these doors as a writer. That means now, the next one is going to be that much easier, and that's pretty exciting. Yeah.
When's Thanksgiving play running to?
Right now it runs through Thanksgiving, but if you all run out and buy tickets, we can extend to Christmas.
Oh, wow.
Question.
Keep on celebrating that Thanksgiving.
Yeah.
Yes, if you want to see Margo Seibert sing some pretty offensive songs.
That's not for her album.
That's for the Thanksgiving
My album
play.
is a collection of highly offensive music. Could you imagine? Oh my God. Sold in the lobby.
Yeah.
That's hilarious.
And Margo, your album, can you tell us a little bit? And when's it going to be released?
It was just released last week. It's called 77th Street. It's for sale on iTunes and Amazon Music, streaming, all of your Apple Music, all of that. And if you want to buy a hard copy, you can also buy it here at Playwrights Horizons. If you still have a CD player.
There you go.
These wonderful women have projects. Support them.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for joining us.
Thank you for
Happy
having us.
Thanksgiving.
Yeah.
Happy Thanksgiving.
What are you thankful for?
Thankful for all the playwrights who've talked to us, or all the artists.
Yeah, we're thankful
Yeah.
for New York.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now we're just gonna start crying, so let's just keep it going.
Yeah. Subscribe on YouTube if you like watching us. And if you hit that little bell, it means you get a notification every time we post a new video, which you should hit the bell because who checks websites anymore?
Well, they should because we're on a website. Anyway, remember we're also gonna be at Broadway Con the weekend of January 11th, so get your tickets. We're gonna have an amazing Token Theater Friends live, so make sure you're there.
Yeah, sexy guests and handouts.
And giveaways.
Giveaways, yeah. That's what I meant by handouts.
Yeah, handouts.
Sorry, I've been reading a lot of news articles lately. All right.
Yeah.
Well, trying to keep it light like Larissa Fasthorse. So, theater's more fun when you take your friends. Bye.
And happy Thanksgiving.
Happy Thanksgiving.